Welcome to GC Sidebar, a short and sharp conversation series with leading general counsels about the decisions, the reflections, and the people behind the title. I'm Trista Engel, CEO of Paragon Legal, and today I'm joined by Doe Gregersen, General Counsel at Nav Technologies, a credit and financial health platform focused on helping small businesses build credit. Throughout her career, Doe has worked at the intersection of credit access, lending, and financial inclusion, particularly for individuals and small businesses, while also donating her time to community organizations. Doe, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Trista.
What's one issue facing legal teams right now that you think is overrated or premature?
Well, I hope I'm not saying the same thing that everybody else has said, but for me, it would be the whole AI bubble. We are getting it in our ear from many different directions. So one is that, oh, your job is going to be replaced by AI. Another one is we have to protect the company from AI because AI is going to take all your data and all your information, and all the people are using AI on their own and nobody knows what's happening. And there's just a lot of conversations, and there's a different side of it where I'll go to a presentation and I'm always so surprised to see how many attorneys raise their hands at a question of, well, have you never used AI? And they say, yeah, that's me. So to me, it seems like it's a great tool. It is a value add, and it absolutely should be part of our day-to-day work. But in a lot of other ways, it's just like any other vendor, any other piece of software. And so I think the hype around it is just outsized for where we are today.
Yeah, I love that you call out that a lot of people haven't really used it because there is a disconnect between some of the hype cycle and what's happening in reality. Or at least there's a very wide spectrum of usage. And what the hype cycle is doing is giving everybody FOMO and making everybody feel like they are behind the curve. And the reality is, you're not. Most people are not behind the curve. Most people are learning, hopefully testing, because it's happening, it's coming. We should be learning how to harness it, but in a smart way.
That's such a great point. And I think there has been another point of pressure of, okay, well, you have to use AI because you're going to be left behind. But just adopting it for the sake of adopting it just doesn't make sense. You have to have an actual use case, and you have to know what result you want out of it and focus on that rather than just saying, well, AI generated a picture with 5 fingers and that's why it doesn't work, and that's why we're not going to use it now. So
Yeah. What's the most valuable lesson you've learned as a GC?
I think through the years, the most valuable would be the fact that as a GC, my job is not to protect the business from itself. It is to enable business and to be a thought partner and to work across the teams to be able to flag risk and help my partners process it, but not to be some kind of the last frontier or a martyr that's going to save the world and say no to everything.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point for people listening, that you have to make this transition from thinking of yourself as an advisor to the business as being a part of the business. And especially if you come from outside counsel, from, law firm training into in-house, that's a really critical mindset shift.
Absolutely. Yes. And I worked in a law firm during law school. I was a paralegal, but I went directly in-house after graduating law school. And so I never had that difference. And I think I have the unique experience because of that, because I sort of grew up already as part of the business being a lawyer. And it has been such a stark difference in some cases working with outside counsel and kind of hearing that perspective. And here I am going, no, the system can't do that. I understand that's the law. We can't, I need a different way. And so the ability to work with the business and understand that we're not going to eliminate all the risk, and we are going to carry some risk, and how to best go about it and enable the business to achieve what they need to achieve. That's been huge.
Yeah, very cool. What's the best career advice you've received or given?
This it's such an interesting question. This to me, this didn't really come in a form of an advice, but I kind of treat it as that. I was in a job interview, talking to a general counsel of a company, and I asked her a question about what she thought the most important, biggest part of her job was. And what she told me was that relationships are the job. And that really stuck with me, and it changed the way that I thought about it. I had always built relationships. I always understood that trust is important, that getting to know people is important, but it was never really intentional. It was more of a side effect of working with them. And after that conversation and after some thinking, I really made it a goal. So anytime that I am at work, I'm building relationships, I'm connecting with people, I'm reaching out to people, and I need to become not just a lawyer that they're going to come to with a question, but a true partner that's going to be part of their everyday workflow.
Yeah, I love that answer and that advice. Everything we do is about trust. And relationships, of course, are how you build trust. And it's a very different way of thinking about your job than just thinking about what is the actual legal substantive work or advice that I'm giving or that I'm thinking about or I'm working on. It is much more about, yes, you need to have that perspective, but then how do you communicate it? How do you make sure that it's being incorporated? And it's all about relationships.
Exactly. Exactly.
How have you leveraged flexible legal talent as a way to augment your in-house team?
I have leveraged it in a couple of different ways, and in both situations, I worked with Paragon Legal. Very happy about that. What I've been able to do is outsource specific projects that were a bit too big for our team at that time. And it would have blown our legal budget if we had had to go to an outside law firm. And as an example, at a previous company, when I joined, we didn't really have a proactive vendor management program and contract management. And so contracts just existed, but we needed somebody to go through all of the existing contracts and identify expiration dates, notice requirements, and all of that. And so then we reached out to Paragon Legal and got some help with that project. Another one we had was a pretty extensive licensing requirement research in 50 states. So as you can imagine, that's not something that you want to pay to an outside counsel, but it's not an easily absorbed one at a smaller organization. So it's been really a very good, positive experience.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I love those examples that you gave because they both are special projects that really will enable the business and really need to get done, but they aren't how you think about the day-to-day legal work that your team needs to do. And so many times those things can fall by the wayside. When it's regulatory, it can't fall by the wayside. Um, but in many other situations, things just get backburnered, and they, the business is disadvantaged if you can't find a way to get some of these things done. So those are great examples.
Yeah, yeah. Had a very positive experience with Paragon on those, and I'm always keeping my eyes open. Is there something that I could truncate the timelines by adding somebody else who's not necessarily going to be a permanent hire for the team, but would have a significant impact?
If you weren't an attorney, Doe, what would you be?
This is such a tough question because I have so many hobbies. I'm always into DIY, crafting, just doing things that I've never done before. I'll see something and go, I wonder if I could make that. But I don't know if I would do that if it had to be my job, So it's a very tough question. Ever since high school, I wanted to be an attorney. I don't know why. I don't know. It just was kind of the single focus. So there was never a consideration for any other types of career paths. Now looking back, project management sounds really fascinating just because it's fast paced and very different every day. Things that you could get to do a lot of interesting things. So possibly a project manager, carpenter, maybe a carpenter. I don't know. So many.
A lot of options, but sounds like you've found the career you were meant to be in. And I love that not only did you find it, you went straight to it. You skipped the normal step of going to a law firm and you went right to where you wanted to be. I love that.
Yeah, yes, it definitely was a perfect fit for me to be in-house versus a law firm. So I am also very happy that I got there fast.
And the bonus question, Paragon turns 20 this year. What's one memory from 20 years ago that still stands out to you?
Well, first, congratulations. That is a huge milestone. And
Thank you very much.
I hope you guys have a big cake or champagne or something. 20 years ago, 20 years ago, I was in law school working a full-time job. I lived an hour away from my job and from school. So I was sleeping about 5 hours a night. It's not a time I want to remember. Looking back, that was just like constant, the grind of, all right, I gotta get through.
Yeah, well, that is very real. And if 20 years ago you could see you now, she would hopefully think it was all worth it.
Oh, for sure, for sure. It was definitely worth it. And even the road itself was worth it and very necessary and very helpful in getting where I am today. But when I think 20 years ago in 2026, that was a tough time.
We'll ask you in a few years, and maybe there will be more of a peak then.
Perfect. Let's do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Doe. This was so much fun. I really appreciate you being with me today and sharing your journey.
Thank you, Trista.
All right, that's a wrap on today's episode of GC Sidebar. Catch more great conversations on our website at paragonlegal.com. Thanks for tuning in.